When medieval Icelandic and Norse sagas describe a hall as still as a burial mound or a chamber where firelight did not flicker, they are not speaking poetically. They are recording a physical condition that mattered deeply in the North Atlantic world. Wind was not only uncomfortable, it was dangerous. Constant drafts stripped heat, carried smoke back into living spaces, and exhausted fuel supplies. Viking builders learned to create rooms that felt uncannily calm, even during coastal gales. This was not achieved by sealing buildings airtight, which would have been deadly, but by controlling how air entered, slowed, and exited. The windless room trick hidden in the sagas was a system of layout, elevation, and airflow management that created internal stillness without stagnation. The Vikings understood that wind behaves predictably inside enclosed spaces. Long before fluid dynamics had a name, Norse builders observed that wind moves low, follows pressure gradients, and accelerates through straight paths. The goal was not to block wind entirely, but to deny it momentum once inside. Viking longhouses were therefore not designed as open halls with straight sightlines from door to hearth. Instead, they were shaped to break airflow repeatedly. Entrances were offset from the main living space. A person entering a longhouse often turned immediately after passing the door, sometimes more than once, before reaching the central room. This forced incoming air to change direction, shedding speed with each turn. By the time it reached the interior, it had lost the energy that creates drafts. The windless room was always positioned deeper than visitors expected. Saga descriptions frequently mention inner rooms, or, setstoffer, that felt markedly warmer and calmer than the main hall. Archaeology confirms that these rooms were not simply smaller. They were placed beyond the primary airflow paths of the structure. The longhouse functioned as a wind buffer. Outer spaces absorbed movement and noise. Inner chambers received only slow, residual air. This layered spatial design meant that even in storms there existed a core of stillness where people slept, stored valuables, and held private conversations. To apply this today, the lesson is, pretty straightforward. Do not place sleeping or resting areas directly in line with entrances or vents. It's best to introduce transitional spaces that absorb airflow before it reaches those critical rooms. Wall thickness and texture were used to kill air movement, not just insulate. Viking walls were massive, often exceeding 1 metre in thickness when turf and stone were used. These walls did more than just retain heat. Their irregular internal structure disrupted air infiltration. Wind that penetrated the outer layers encountered resistance, turbulence, and dead zones before reaching the interior surface. Unlike modern smooth-walled construction, Viking walls were intentionally rough and layered. This prevented wind from maintaining laminar flow. The result was, quieter, calmer interiors. In practical terms, textured interior surfaces, layered wall systems, and dense natural materials reduce perceived drafts far more effectively than thin, smooth barriers. The ceiling height and roof angle played a crucial role in wind control. Viking interiors were low compared to modern buildings. Lower ceilings reduced vertical convection currents that pull air upward and create constant movement. Roofs were steep externally, but shaped internally to guide smoke upward without creating cross drafts. Smoke exited through controlled openings that encouraged slow draw rather than aggressive suction. This balance kept air fresh without pulling cold wind across the floor. Modern builders often overventilate in ways that create perpetual drafts. The Viking approach demonstrates that controlled exhaust, placed high and centrally, maintains air quality without sacrificing comfort. Cold air sinks. Vikings, took advantage of this by raising living platforms and benches above the floor. The lowest part of the room was allowed to collect colder, slower-moving air, while daily life occurred higher up in warmer, calmer zones. This stratification reduced the impact of residual airflow. Even if some movement occurred near the floor, it rarely reached seated or sleeping occupants. This is why saga descriptions often emphasize raised seating and sleeping areas as markers of comfort and status. Applying this today can be as simple as, elevating beds, seating, or workspaces in cold environments and allowing lower zones to act as air buffers. Doors were treated as airflow regulators rather than just openings. Viking doors were low, heavy, and often covered with hides or thick textiles. These coverings acted as flexible baffles, allowing passage while, slowing air exchange. So, rather than sealing doors tightly, Vikings actually used weight and layering to dampen airflow. It's a subtle approach, but, remarkably effective in their harsh environment. Modern equivalents, they include heavy curtains, layered doorways and vestibules that slow rather than block air. It's interesting how these age-old strategies still find their way into our homes today. Perhaps the most important aspect of this trick is, what it avoided. Viking rooms were never airtight. Smoke, moisture, and of course human respiration required constant air exchange. It's a simple yet crucial principle for healthy living spaces. The achievement was not still air, but slow air. This distinction explains why these buildings were healthy as well as warm. Air moved gently, without drafts, preventing condensation and smoke build-up. This principle remains critical today. True comfort comes from managed airflow, not isolation. The sagas recorded comfort because it was earned through design. When sagas describe halls as calm refuges from the storm, they are, in fact, recording a technical achievement. The windless room was the product of accumulated observation, refined over generations. It was not a secret technique, but rather a shared understanding embedded in building tradition. Relearning this approach offers more than just historical insight. It provides practical guidance for anyone interested in off-grid living cold climate design, or honestly understanding how people thrived without modern materials. If this exploration of Viking environmental engineering deepened your appreciation for the intelligence hidden in old sagas, subscribe to In the Beginning, share this episode with fellow history enthusiasts, and help keep this hard-won knowledge alive for future generations.